Space Engineers has a lot of fantastic mods that massively improve the game, but the biggest problem with these mods is actually finding them. So this month, I will be doing a set of videos documenting some of the best mods for the game, starting today, where I'll be going through 15 mods that are essential to my Space Engineers experience. Let's begin! Build Vision is definitely my favourite mod for Space Engineers, as it makes a massive quality of life improvement to your game. If you look at any block while you have this mod installed, like for example this light up here, and then press Ctrl, you can see a list of the settings of the light. Its name, how much power it's using, the colour, the radius, etc, etc. And then from here, you can scroll up to bring up this radial interface here, or scroll down to bring up this list interface here. Both of these interfaces show every setting the block has available to it, and you can also use it to change the settings. So let's give this light a new name. How about like and subscribe? Perfect. And I can also reduce the green and blue of the lights to make it a nice looking red colour, obviously to match the beautiful colour the subscribe button becomes when you click it. Being able to change the settings of blocks just by looking at them is an amazing feature, especially for blocks without built-in terminals like lights. But this isn't all you can do. Say for example, you've decided you're now a Dark Lord of the Sith, and therefore you need all your internal lights to be red. We can look at this light, copy all of its settings, and go over to another light, and then paste all those settings in. As easy as that. You can change the keybinds that I've mentioned, so if you're on controller, you can also bind them onto keys that are more appropriate to you. And there's also a lot more you can do with Build Vision than just renaming and recoloring lights. You can reposition projectors, align refueling arms, never go into a terminal ever again. But for now, let's move on to our next mod, one with a very similar name, but very different features. Build Info has a lot of features, and I mean a lot of features. All of those features revolve around giving more information to the player. We won't be going through all of the features this mod adds, but we will be going over the main features. If you hold a block in your hand, you can see on the left a lot of information, probably too much information. Its weight, its power consumption, its thrusting force, it's all here. Now personally, I like to move this over to the right hand side by toggling the HUD, as the interface feels a bit cluttered when it's on the left hand side. However, this mod is fully configurable, so you can hide this interface if you wish. If you place this block down, you can also get information from it by looking at it with a welder or grinder in your hand. Below this information, and also when you're holding a block to place, you can see it says, Specialized Overlay Available, Control Plus to Cycle. This is the next feature we'll be looking at. If I hold a thruster in my hand again, and then press the hotkey mentioned, you can see this new overlay appears. The first overlay shows me where a block is airtight, and, more importantly, the range to which the thruster flame does damage. I always forget the distance for thruster damage, so having the ability to visualize it in game is very useful to me. If we go to this ship outside, and if we look at some of the blocks on it whilst holding a welder, we can see that this thruster is going to damage the base if it's left on, the radius of this drill so you can better see where to place them so they don't overlap, and the radius where this light will illuminate. The overlays also update automatically, so if I use Build Vision to reduce the radius on this light, the overlay moves with it. There's other overlays too, one for mount points, one for ports, but I don't find these very useful when using vanilla blocks. If you take a look at the terminal of some blocks, they will have a build info category on them that shows more useful information. For example, power blocks have more info on them about how much power your ship needs and has, and how much longer your power will last. And if we get into my hydrogen miner and look at its hydrogen tank, you can also see how much longer your hydrogen will last as well, something you cannot easily see in the game at the moment. Whilst we're in the cockpit of my hydrogen miner, you can see that the cockpit UI has been improved. There's three main changes. First is, you can see your hydrogen and battery percentage on the hotbar where relevant, along with improved icons that better represent what this function on your hotbar does, and the text below it has a better description as well. In vanilla, this hydrogen tank just says off with an on-off icon, whereas in build info, it says auto and instead shows a stockpile icon, and when I toggle it, it says fill instead of on, much better indicating to me what it's doing. Above the hotbar, we have a box that explains exactly what each button on my hotbar does. So number 1 is drills, number 5 is switch lock on my connector, 6 sets my hydrogen tanks to stockpile, etc, etc. And the final cockpit feature, and probably the most useful in my opinion, is this part here. Did you know that in base game Space Engineers, when you get into a cockpit, you have a bar that shows cargo capacity, but it actually shows the player's cargo capacity, and not that of the ship you're in? That's crazy. This mod fixes that, and adds a second bar to the UI as well. The first bar shows your cargo capacity of your drills, and the second bar shows the cargo capacity of your ship. So as you can see here, the drills fill up and then the drills empty and move into the main cargo of my ship. So now you can easily see when your ship is full and either unload some stone or fly back to base. I should mention quickly, one feature that used to be part of this mod has now been moved to its own separate mod called Leak Finder. This mod adds a button to air vents that makes a trail appear to the nearest leak in your base or ship, which is very useful as it's absolutely insanity inducing trying to find where a leak is so you can pressurize your base in the base game. Like I said earlier, Build Info has a lot of features. Whilst making this video, I found out there's a command that visualizes your entire conveyor network, which is insanely useful. And all of these features and more are highly configurable in the settings for the mod. Now the next mod isn't as extensive as this one, but you may have already seen it in the video already. Now, I don't know what it is about Space Engineers, but I immediately become blind when I see an interface full of desaturated light blue icons. All I want to do is be able to quickly identify and withdraw what I'm looking for from a cargo container, and I do this using the Colourful Icons mod. I don't know why, but with this mod, I can much more easily identify and find items that I'm looking for. It probably has something to do with our monkey brains being able to recognise colours faster than shapes. Brain sees red, neuron activation. Iron ore is red, ice is blue, uranium is green, gold is, well, gold, and tools are colour coded based on their tier. I cannot tell you how much the game has improved for me just by adding a little bit of colour. And if you like colourful icons, consider clicking the like button below this video, as it explodes in a variety of colours when you do so. And if that wasn't enough for you, there's another colourful button you can press. Anyway, speaking of mods that make a small change that make a massive difference, one of the things that annoys me in Space Engineers is the amount of thrusters it takes to make something fly. This mainly affects atmospheric thrusters, which seem really weak for some reason, but I want my ships to look cool and slick, and instead my ships look like, well, a mess. This is where adjustable thruster multipliers comes in. It adds a slider to all thrusters, including modded ones, that allows you to scale up the thruster's strength and energy or fuel cost. So, 2 times strength gives you 2 times the amount of thrust at the cost of 2 times the amount of energy or hydrogen, all the way up to 11 times, which makes you go very, very fast. Now, you won't need as many thrusters to make your ships fly. Just don't abuse this power, as whilst you can move very fast, you can also crash just as quickly. Advanced Welding is ironically a mod that includes more grinding features than welding features. Its namesake comes from a new block it adds called a weld pad, a thin block that acts as a one-time use merge block. You can place one of these on a block or a grid you want to connect, and then another one on your ship or base. And then, if you move your first weld pad over to the second weld pad, you'll get text at the bottom here showing how close the 2 pads are together until, bam, they connect, merging the 2 grids together. This is very useful for merging NPC blocks and grids onto your ships, rather than having to grind down all the blocks first. However, let's say you found this wreck here and you only wanted the turret. You'd have to grind down all the blocks around it, right? Nope. That's where the next feature comes in. If you have a grinder equipped and hold control or left bumper, you can see it says down here, detach mode, grind block to detach it. And thus, if I now grind this turret, this block becomes a separate grid, and I can pick it up and move it with my ship. The third feature, again a grinding feature, is called Precision Grind. When you have a tier 3 grinder, sometimes you just want to grind one block, but because you have the need for speed, you accidentally grind down half your ship instead. Not ideal, and even less ideal when the thing you accidentally grind down was a cargo container full of stuff. Definitely not speaking from experience. By holding down right click or left trigger, this enables precision grind on the block you're looking at, meaning as long as you're holding that button, you can only grind that block as hard as you try. Whilst we're on the topic of grinding, you might have noticed that you weren't deafened by the sound of the grinder. And as much as I love the volume of drills, grinders and welders being so loud that it rattles the brain in my skull, I'd rather it didn't. So I used the mod Sneaky Sounds, which reduces the volume of them to a nice background level. Now you can actually form some coherent thoughts when you're using tools, like for example, why have we run out of steel plates again? If there's one thing I get mad about in Space Engineers, it's when I run out of components. I just have to sit there and wait as my assembler builds what I need. I just want it now, damn it! This is where the next 2 mods come in. Production Quota allows you to set, as you can imagine, a production quota for components. Go to any assembler, set how many of each component you want to keep in stock, and then, as long as you have the raw resources to craft those components, it will make them for you. As you can see, as I queued up 10,000 steel plates, and we already had 1,000 of them, it queued up another 9,000 steel plates in order to reach the number I requested. Now, the only thing I have to get mad about is running out of resources instead. Whilst we're on the topic of quotas, I have a Discord server where we chat about space engineers, show off our ships, and occasionally do multiplayer events. Click the link in the description to join. This mod adds buttons to projectors that add all the components needed to build its current projection to an assembler, saving you the hassle of queuing them yourself. As you can see here, I have Apollo's blueprint projected from this projector, and at the bottom of the terminal of this projector, I can choose an assembler to send to, and they also have a button to send to assembler and a second button to send missing items. So if I choose send missing items and then look at assembler 4, you can see that it's queued up all the components needed to build this ship. But it can't build any of them though, because it doesn't have the resources to do so. I'll be honest, I'm not really feeling like going out to mine resources at the moment. Pretty lazy, I know. But don't worry, I know you guys are pretty lazy too, and that is where the next two mods come in. You know in Star Trek where they have doors that open automatically when people walk towards them, but it's secretly two guys with a rope that quickly yank the door open as the crew walk past? Yeah, I want that. Oh. No, not in Space Engineers. In real life, in my house, patreon.com/Mesero, but I guess we could have it in Space Engineers as well. Automatic doors and airlocks allows just that. It adds a setting to all door blocks, as shown here, that allows the automation for them opening and closing. The top option, Automate Open Close, is the setting you're mainly going to want to use, allowing you to choose if you want it to automatically open and close, or just open or close. I'm not actually lazy enough to not open doors, however, I hate turning around to close doors behind me, so I usually just use the option to close them. There's also options below this setting to configure the range at which doors open and close. So now, if I open the door, walk through it, turn around, and then walk away, you'll see the door close behind me. And if I now set it to open and closed, you can see that it's closed, and if I walk over to it, it opens for me, and now it closes again once I'm through. The full power of my laziness on display. This mod can also be used to automate airlocks. Oh, you wanted me to show you that? Oh sorry, I don't know how that works. I just used the next mod instead. Smarter Suit is a really simple mod that automates suit functions, with the main two being your helmet and jetpack. It automatically closes your helmet if there's no oxygen, so you don't suffocate and die, and it automatically opens it if there is oxygen. Ah! Oh, sorry, woman jump scare. It's the same for the jetpack. It automatically enables it when no gravity is detected, and it automatically disables it when you're close enough to the ground. There's something odd about the ground. It's looking rather smooth. As the last rover enjoyer left in Space Engineers, I have the immense displeasure of telling you that rovers just suck, man. I personally blame the planet. Why is it so bumpy and rough? It's very inconsiderate. If only there was a solution to this. Oh my. Smooth voxels isn't everyone's cup of tea, I get that, but it definitely does make it much easier to drive your rovers around. Here's a couple of comparisons. You can hopefully see it makes the terrain much smoother and much more drivable, especially for smaller rovers. No need to worry about little or big bumps in the terrain or those little craggy areas you get on the side of mountains. Now, you will still explode if you hit the ground too hard, but hey, that's just one of the risks us rover joyers take. Mechanical Keybinds is probably the most advanced mod on this list, but it's a very useful mod. Basically, it allows you to control pistons, hinges and rotors using your keyboard or controller. Think of it like the custom turret controller on steroids. Here's something I built earlier to show how this mod works. It's a mining arm using a rotor to turn it, 2 pistons to move it forward, and 3 pistons to go down. If I go into the terminal of one of these pistons, you can see it has some new options at the bottom. The top option is bind, which is basically choosing what input will activate the movement of this block. The top 3 options here are left, right, up, down and forward and backwards, meaning that the piston will respond to the same inputs that I used to move. The 3 bottom options, pitch, yaw and roll, mean that the blocks will respond to camera movement controls, which in my case is my mouse. I've already set the bottom 3 pistons to respond to up, down. these horizontal ones to forward and backwards, and the rotor to left right, and I've set all of their control velocities to 2 meters a second. The last thing to do is to place down a cockpit, and then select all your pistons, rotors, hinges and cockpits and group them, and then you're done. Now get into the cockpit, edit your toolbar, find the cockpit you're in, and then add control mechanics to your hotbar. And if I press control mechanics, voila! I have a fully controllable arm which I can use to mine this little area to my heart's content. So I'm pressing forward to go forward and backwards to go backwards, left and right moves the arm left and right, and up and down makes the arm go up and down. And let's be honest, if an idiot like me can figure this out, I'm sure a genius like you is able to as well. Come on guys, I want to see you using this to build arms and legs for your mechs. I've just been thinking, this drill isn't making a very big hole, is it? I wonder if there's a way to make it bigger. In the past, I made a collection of mods that slightly buffed a bunch of blocks in the game, but then I found out about this mod, Configurable Vanilla Plus. This mod allows you, the viewer, to increase the radius of welders, grinders, drills and ore detectors, and increase the power output of batteries, solar panels, hydrogen engines, wind turbines and reactors to whatever you want. Want a reactor that outputs 1,000,000 watts? Here you go. Want to have an ore detector that can actually detect ores? This one has 600 meters range. Want a welder that can weld up an entire ship in one go? Go for it! The possibilities are endless, although you probably want to set it as something balanced. All you need to do is edit a config file in the same folder as your save game, and you're absolutely golden. But if bigger welders aren't enough for you, we always have the next mod. I personally think, and remember this is my list, that mods like build and repair and nanite control are a teeny little bit cheaty. But for those of you that don't want to weld up a ship by hand, and for some reason don't want to build a ship printer, I have the perfect mod for you. AI Enabled is a mod that allows you to build AI companions to do tasks for you. I mainly use them for welding, but you can use them for scavenging, combat and general crew as well. All you need to do to get started is to build a robot factory, manufacture a bot material component for the type of bot you want to build, so in my case I need a repair bot material, and then make sure you have some spare space credits stockpiled. Open up the bot factory, don't worry you can ignore most of this for now, just scroll down to the bottom until you get to helper factory. Select the role of the bot you want, so I want a repair bot, as repair bots can repair grids, but also they take items from your storage to weld up blocks, and also grind down blocks of your choosing. You can also choose the model for your bot, which is how it appears. Ooh, RoboDog is new, I haven't seen that before. Oh no, let me click it. Oh fine, I'll go for the target dummy instead. You need to give him a name? Well, we all know what it's going to be, let's be honest. And choose a colour for him, garish pink as always. And then finally, press build. You then get this lovely animation of him spawning in and being built. And he's off apparently, he didn't waste any time. I'm kind of curious where he's going. Apparently there's a damaged block underneath the base, but he's now fixed that up for me. Oh, this is a little adventure, isn't it? He's found another damaged block. You see, I told you those thrusters were going to damage the base. And now he's welding up the projection of Apollo I placed earlier. You can build a fleet of these little guys to go around and weld up blocks, and as I said, they can perform other functions as well. There's also an add-on for this mod called Crew Enabled, that automatically adds these bots to NPC ships and bases. So, if I fly over to the Space Pirate base over here, you can see that there's a bunch of bots hanging around chilling. And now they're trying to kill me. That's so mean, guys. I'm not aware of every single mod in existence, so please let me know your essential mods in the comments below. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm producing several videos on mods this month, so if that interests you, like this video and subscribe to this channel to see the rest of them. And, as most people have probably stopped watching at this point, I would just like to say, I'm only able to work on videos as long as this one, as I'm on holiday from work this week. I know, using my time off to make YouTube videos? That's so cringe. But if you'd like to support me making longer and more frequent videos like this one, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube member. And with that, a special thanks to my current supporters, the Wildcat, the Whiskman, Hamish Drowner, Sommet and Tarantula Fudge.